why our language weaknesses are also our greatest strengths. Well, from personal experience, the areas that I have found to be my weakest have become my greatest strengths because I've spent so much time dedicated to those areas that I've actually been able to improve them beyond even what my average skills were in other areas. So our greatest weaknesses, they can become our greatest strengths because they teach us what we need most. They teach us this what we need most, and they show us something about the way we learn that can only be seen by looking at where we struggle. For example, my greatest strength in language learning for a long time with my Spanish was speaking. And I looked at that and I looked at how can I develop my fluency? How can I get here and how can I do this? And now speaking is actually where I feel most comfortable. And speaking was not only my weakness in Spanish, but in English and everything. I just struggled to speak, and it was the ability to produce the language in Spanish, of course, but it was also confidence. It was just speaking publicly. It was all of these things, and I worked on it. I worked on it through directly practicing speaking, of course, but also through reading and writing, through listening and speaking, through reading, writing, listening, and speaking, through all the combinations of these things, through constantly educating myself on anything that I could find that would move me forward toward my goal. And it worked, and I just kept at it until I made progress, and now speaking is one of my greatest strengths. So what this does and how we can shift our mindset to look at making our weaknesses into our greatest strengths is that this is an area where we need to look more deeply into. And I have found that I am a much slower learner than a lot of people around me in my classes, but that I learn at a much deeper level, and that is potentially because I have to in order to understand things. I have to really, really, really understand them and study them, and my memory is just it's awful. And so I have to really study, I have to really practice, and what that does is I end up learning things in a deeper level than many other people do, and that is my strength. So what yours is, you have to really look in to see what is yours, because this is something that is going to become completely different for each person. But for me, that is my language strength within Spanish and English and any language within speaking, and then within the depth of learning and details, essentially. And that I used to be frustrated with, right? I used to think why can't I just learn as fast as these other people? What am I doing wrong? Why is it taking me so long? And recently I had the realization that, you know what? I have a different knowledge. I have a different skill set. It is unique to me, and it is my strength, where I maybe fall behind others in my ability to pick up things quickly and move through them and progress onto the next topic. I get in depth, in detail, and I really get things working well, even though other people are moving along. I build that foundation, and then it just skyrockets. So it is a different strategy, a different strength. And the way that you can look into finding what your strength is, what your weakness is again, getting into that practice, getting moving, because the only way that you can really make progress, really learn about your strategies, your weaknesses, your strengths, is to move, practice, speak, read, write, listen, all of those things. And you begin to see, okay, I'm struggling here. This is maybe a weakness. I'm doing really well here. this might be a strength. And you address those. You say, okay, it's my weakness. How can I improve? You work on that, you improve, and then maybe you have a different weakness, and you work on that, you improve, and then maybe one of your strengths starts to decline because you focus so much on your weaknesses, and then it's that constant process. But over time, you will begin to see, okay, my strengths seem to be this particular area, like reading. I read really quickly or whatever it is. I don't. I'm a slow reader. But that might be your strength. And then your weakness, on the other hand, you might see, okay, well, I'm consistently getting feedback from my teachers that says that I'm not using grammar correctly, I'm not using vocabulary correctly, whatever it is. That maybe is my weakness. I need to spend more time studying these things, and maybe your weakness is memory, retention. And that gives you somewhere to focus. So you focus on improving that, you continue making that progress, but you add extra focus onto that area, and then you slowly start to make more and more and more progress, and you work with what you got. So you work with those weaknesses, you work with those strengths, and you just keep learning no matter what. And yeah, that's my take on weaknesses and strengths, how your weakness is your greatest strength, and I'll see you guys back here next time. Bye guys.